Continental drift. So Wegener's hypothesis was called continental drift. And continental drift proposed that Earth's continents had once been joined as a single landmass that broke apart and sent the continents adrift. So they started off together and then they broke apart. And Wegener called this supercontinent Pangaea, which is Greek for all the earth. Pan means all or everywhere, and then earth, Gaia means earth. Now, suggested that it started to break apart about 200 million years ago, and then MYA is our abbreviation for million years ago, so we don't have to keep writing million years ago all the time. Then the continents slowly drifted to their present day positions. Now, Wegener was the first to base his idea on more than just the shapes of the continents. Before Wegener, everybody just looked at the outlines of the continents and said, hey, they look like puzzle pieces. They might fit together. But Wegener had more information. This is a model of continental drift. So about 200 million years ago, all the continents assembled in a single landmass that Wegener named Pangaea. So this is Pangaea. Then we go to 180 million years ago. Continental rifting breaks Pangaea into several land masses, so we're rifting here and here and here, all these breaks. And the North Atlantic Ocean starts to form. You kind of see it forming like right in here. This is sort of the North Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico be right there. Then 135 million years ago, Africa and South America begin to separate. And about 65 million years ago, India moves north toward Asia. So India is right here. It's moving north towards Asia. So let's go this way. India then collides with Asia to form the Himalayas, and Australia has separated from Antarctica. And rift valleys formed in East Africa. Continents continue to move over Earth's surface. So right now we do have a rift valley formed in Africa. Actually, rift valley is basically what separated Madagascar, which is a little island right there. Now, one other thing to kind of mention too, you had Pangaea, you also had, kind of hard to read, but Panthalassa, which was the name of the ocean here. Now, evidence from rock formations. So Wegener reasoned that large geologic structures like mountain ranges would have separated when Pangaea broke up. So he thought there should be similar rock types on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Using this reasoning, Wegener found identical layers of rocks in the Appalachian Mountains and mountains in Greenland and Europe. So here's evidence that the areas of, say, like West Virginia or North America, Greenland, and Europe were all connected at one point in time. These layers were more than 200 million years old. So these layers were older than Pangaea. So these layers indicate that they were joined more than 200 million years ago. So this age of these indicates that they were joined more than 200 million years ago. And that matches the timeline that Pangaea was thought to have split up, which is, again, 200 million years ago. Okay, so this is a map of similar fossils and rocks. I'm mainly interested in the rocks right now. But Wegener found similar rock types in North America, Greenland, and Europe. So in these areas. He also noticed that the Appalachian Mountains in particular had similar rock layers to some mountains in Greenland up here, and then also in Northern Europe here. Okay, so that's one piece of evidence. You had similar rock types on these continents that were not connected now. Also, you have similar rock types in Africa and South America. Now, evidence from fossils. So Wegener found similar fossils of several different plants and animals that lived on or near land on widely separated continents. So if they lived on or near land, that means they could not have possibly swam across the ocean to get from one continent to another. And even if one or two could possibly somehow make that journey, there wouldn't be enough of a population that could swim across the ocean to, say, form a new population. So this indicates, since we're talking about land animals, land plants, etc., then these had to have been connected at some point in time. The land had to be connected at some point in time. So land-dwelling animals such as Cynonathus and Lystrosaurus could not have swum between the continents. So, kind of the same thing with the rock samples and the mountains too. The mountain layers are not going to move from one continent to another across the ocean. Now, fossils of Mesosaurus, which is an aquatic reptile, have been found in freshwater rocks. So it's unlikely that it would survive a trip in saltwater. Freshwater organisms usually don't do well in saltwater. All the fossils Wegener looked at were older than 200 million years. So we have that 200 million year time frame again. That's the time frame when Pangaea broke up. So all these fossils were older than 200 million years. Now, climatic evidence. So plants only grow in certain climates. So plant fossils are good indicators of past climates. In fact, we still base a lot of our climate classification on plants. Now, one plant fossil Wegener used was a plant called Glossopteris, which was a seed fern that resembled low shrubs. And fossils of this were found in South America, Antarctica, and India. So areas that are widely separated now. Locations cover too large an area to have been one climate. These also grew in temperate climates, so these locations were closer to the equator at one time. Now, South America and India are still close to the equator, but Antarctica is at the South Pole. So rocks containing these fossils had to be joined at some point in time for these fossils to have all appeared in those same rock layers. And again, back to our map of similar fossils and rocks. Now we have different fossils we can talk about. So we have Cynonathus, which is in red. So there's some here, and there's some here, which this matches up almost perfectly if you just drew a line right through there. Okay, you have Glossopteris, which is our fern. There are fossils here in South America, here in Africa. There's some over here in Australia. There's some down here in Antarctica. Lystrosaurus, which is in orange. Mainly you have Antarctica, you have Africa, and you have India for Lystrosaurus. And then for Mesosaurus, you have parts of South America and Africa and Antarctica again. So we have all these different fossils that occur across multiple continents now. And those organisms would not have been able to, say, swim from, say, South America down to Antarctica. Even if they could, the climate there would not be conducive to them surviving. Now, coal deposits. Sedimentary rocks, again, provide clues of past environments. We kind of saw that with the plant fossils. Now, Wegener found evidence that climates of some continents have changed. Again, by some of the plant fossils that are found there, and also coal deposits. So coal deposits have been found in Antarctica and other high latitude areas. High latitudes basically meaning like 60 degrees north or south. So 60 degrees north or south of the equator would be our high latitudes. Coal forms from the remains of ancient swamp plants that grew in warm, wet environments. So Antarctica is not warm or wet. But coal beds in Antarctica indicate that it was once a tropical environment. Now, Wegener concluded that Antarctica must have been much closer to the equator at some point in its geologic past, based on this evidence. Glacial deposits. So glacial deposits are found in parts of Africa, India, Australia, and South America. None of those are areas we think of now as having glaciers. These glacial deposits are about 290 million years old, which means that they were there before Pangaea broke up at 200 million years ago. So this suggests that these areas were once covered by thick ice sheets. So at some point in time in the past, they were frozen. Since this area is too warm for ice sheets to develop, they were likely near the South Pole. So either the South Pole moved, the Earth has changed its orientation somehow, or the landmass has moved. So Wegener argued that it was more likely that the landmass has moved as opposed to the Earth's axis changing. So it's much more likely that the landmass has moved than it is that, say, Earth's axis changed, or it really would have had to change orientation completely, like turn sideways or something.